Wheel of Fortune is an otherworldly card and has an esoteric meaning of transition. Hello, I'm Michael J. Auger, creator of the Allcento Tarot, and today let's take a spin on the 10th card of the Tarot's Major Arcana. When you look at the Tarot in series of 10s, esoteric meanings become clear. The number 1 in 10 marks the end of the first cycle and the transition into the next. The number 0 links this arcana with what is arguably the most important card in the deck, the Fool. I began this series of videos with the Magician because I wanted to save the best for last. However, there's a very strong link between the Wheel and the Fool, and so I need to address that. The Fool is not actually part of the Major Arcana or the Minor Arcana. He is the unnumbered maverick who breaks all the rules. He represents the divine, separating from itself and taking a big leap into the material world. The rest of the deck of cards are his journey, and this journey is a loop. The 10th Arcana, the Wheel, is an echo of this concept. It represents the cycle of life that the Fool transitions in and out of. The concept of the Rota Fortunae, or Wheel of Fortune, as a symbol of the unpredictable nature of fate spun by the goddess Fortuna, dates way back to ancient times, before the Common Era. It was widely popularized in the Middle Ages and was a commonplace image found in church murals, manuscripts, and more. It was used to teach religious ideas, comment on politics, and was later incorporated into literary works, including Arthurian romances and plays by Shakespeare. The popularity of this fairly simple image with deep symbolism made it an obvious choice to incorporate into the tarot. The Visconti-Sforza is considered one of the oldest still existing tarot decks, and the card that depicts the Wheel Arcana follows the traditional depiction of the winged goddess Fortuna at the center, with 4 symbolic figures around the wheel. The young figure on the left, rising upwards and dressed in green, has the ears of an ass. He is titled Regnabo, which means I shall reign. The figure on the top, dressed in gold, also with ass ears, is titled Regno, meaning I reign. The figure descending on the right doesn't have ass ears, but does have a tail and is titled Regnavi, meaning I reigned. And on the bottom below the wheel, there's an old man on his hands and knees and is titled Sum sin regno, meaning I am without reign. The old man wears worn out stockings that match the Fool. The symbolism of transition is clear. This is a depiction of the phases of life. We strive for mastery in our youth, we achieve some level of it, and then with advanced age, we regress again. Throughout life, we sometimes act like an ass or a monkey because we're only human after all. The blindfolded goddess Fortuna is a reminder that there are some things that are beyond our control, and ultimately, the only thing that we can take with us after we die when we reach the bottom of the wheel is our soul. But then the big wheel keeps on turning, and the old man becomes the Fool, ready to reincarnate and experience another life, transition onwards, and take another spin. Early woodblock Marseille style versions of this card also emphasize the idea of transition. The figures riding the wheel are further stylized into anthropomorphic animals. We see the wheel sometimes spinning counterclockwise, with an ass riding up and a monkey riding down, with another monkey or other creature in the middle on the top platform wearing a crown and holding a sword. This implies dominion over the others, but a likely short-lived one. The crank that spins the wheel continues off to the side, implying it's controlled by the unseen Fortuna, who remains out of sight. There is no bottom figure depicted in this simplified card, but interestingly, the ground is colored blue, which implies the wheel may not be on solid ground at all, but perhaps water instead. This suggests that in a life that is full of transitions, we must strive to go with the flow. A wonderfully esoteric illustration by occultist Eliphas Levi from his book Transcendental Magic was immensely influential to later depictions of the Wheel of Fortune Arcana. Levy's depiction features a complex wheel that is based on the vision of Ezekiel as described in chapter 10 of the Bible. Riding up the wheel on the right is a Hermanubis, which is a fusion of the Greek Hermes and the Egyptian Anubis. This represents constructive qualities that benefit development of a living person. Riding down the wheel on the left is a typhonic monster that represents the destructive qualities that must be rejected. Above them, on a fixed platform, is a sphinx, whose body combines an angel, eagle, lion, and ox, and represents the unity and stability of the individual. The sphinx carries a sword used to cut through conflicts, much like the Justice Arcana, intervening between opposing forces. The wheel is supported by the mass of two crescent-shaped boats that float on the unstable ocean of chaos. The depiction of this arcana by Oswald Wirth is nearly identical to the version by Levy. According to Wirth, life is like an electric current that takes the opposite direction of the force of movement around it, opposing everything it is a part of. The handle at the center starts the wheel in motion in a fateful spin, which gradually slows as the rapid rhythm of youth transitions into the regularity of adulthood and then the decline into old age, and eventually the fatal standstill when the wheel stops turning. The version of this card created by Arthur Edward Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith also features a sphinx on the top of the wheel, but the other characters transition once again to different ideas. The Egyptian god Anubis, stripped of any connection to Hermes, is seen rising on the wheel. Anubis is the god of the underworld and climbs upwards towards the Sphinx, which Waite interprets as the resurrected god Horus, representing triumph over death. Riding down the other side of the wheel is a snake that Waite identifies as Set, the Egyptian deity he saw as representing evil, similar to Satan. In the four corners of the card are the cherubim creatures from the vision of Ezekiel, each holding a book linking them to the four evangelists. This version of the wheel doesn't have a crank. Instead, inscribed on the outer rim of the wheel are the Hebrew letters of the name of God, who is seen as the controller of fate, as well as the letters T, A, R, and O. And on the inner rim are the alchemical symbols of salt, mercury, sulfur, and water. This wheel floats in the ethereal clouds, disconnected to any human concerns. The interpretation by Aleister Crowley and Lady Frida Harris is even more otherworldly. The clusters of stars above the wheel appear distorted, but they are balanced. Some are bright and others dark. There's also a 10-pointed star at the wheel's hub, as the microcosm is a reflection of the macrocosm. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn associated this card with the astrological sign of Jupiter, and the lightning bolts of the god Jupiter, the equivalent of Zeus, can be seen striking the wheel, as Zeus is known for meddling in human affairs. However, according to Crowley, the lightning that destroys also begets. Fortune is an incalculable factor, sometimes good and sometimes bad. Sitting temporarily on top of the wheel sits the exalted Sphinx with a sword representing sulfur and connected with the Emperor. On the right is a Typhon connected with the Empress, but personifying destructive power and representing salt. The alchemical symbol of salt can be seen next to his eye. And on the left is a monkey, meant to depict a Hermanubis who acts as a guide for the souls of the dead. At the bottom of the wheel is a closed fist that implies the wheel is spun by the hand of God. 6 rays of light emanate from the fist, which is a correspondence with the 6 Sephirah and represents our connection to the divine. Despite the hand of God depicted as a closed fist, it is the hidden palm of the hand that turns the wheel. The Golden Dawn links this card with the Hebrew letter Kaf, which means the palm of the hand. And it is also the palm of the hand where fortunes can be read. And here's the depiction of this card as seen in the Allcento tarot. In this version, there is a crank that turns the wheel that continues off to the left to the unseen goddess Fortuna. The figures riding the wheel represent the 4 stages of life, much as they did in the earliest depictions of this arcana. Rising upward is the victorious hero from the Chariot card, and at the top sits the wise Hierophant. These 2 characters we have already met in previous episodes. The other 2 characters are from future episodes. Falling downwards is the Hanged Man, and at the bottom, below the wheel in a boat, is Death. Each of these characters carry a golden orb with a different symbol of the alchemical process: salt, mercury, sulfur, and water. The alchemist turning base metals into gold is an allegory for our soul being refined through a life of chance and changes, leading us to enlightenment through conscious experience. There is water, which represents life, that pours from above to spin the wheel in the direction of the sun, or clockwise, to then flow into the sea. At the center of the wheel is a circled dot, which is a symbol of the sun and represents transition. The ever-spinning wheel represents the cycle of incarnation, death, and reincarnation, and is full of surprises. These surprises remind us that it's our choice on how we react to transitory fortunes or failures. Sometimes we're up, and sometimes we're down. The goal is to eventually make it to the center of the wheel, where the spinning stops. This is the Zen, peaceful nirvana to strive for. The 8 radiating spokes symbolize the 8-fold path of Buddhist practice, leading to liberation from the painful cycle of rebirth. And this brings us to the end of this episode, as well as the end of the first cycle of 10. However, every ending is a new beginning, and our spiritual journey will continue soon. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment to share your support. And as always, you can find out more about me and the Allcento Tarot on my website, offbeatartwork.com. Until next time, brightest blessings on your spiritual journey.